Have you ever been called the quiet one? You know, it's a label that gets thrown around a lot, and it almost always comes with a bunch of misunderstandings. But what if I told you that being quiet isn't a weakness at all? What if it's actually a kind of superpower in disguise? Well, today we're going to dive into exactly that, the silent intelligence of observers.
Yeah, that question, it always stings a little, doesn't it? Why don't you talk more? It can make you feel like you're doing something wrong, like being quiet is some kind of problem that needs to be fixed. But what if the whole premise of that question is just completely off base?
And that, right there, leads us straight into the biggest misconception of all, that quiet automatically means shy. So let's just pull that idea apart for a minute and see what's really going on.
Okay, so think about it like this. On one side, you have what other people see, right? They see someone who's quiet, maybe they even think you're aloof or uninterested. But then there's the other side, what's really happening. And that's a mind that is absolutely buzzing with activity, processing, analyzing, and connecting dots that nobody else even sees.
This is so crucial to understand. Your quiet nature isn't some bug in your social software. It's more like you're running a completely different operating system, one that's built for deep, thoughtful processing instead of just rapid-fire output.
So if it's not a bug, then what is it? Well, this is where we bring in a really powerful idea: active observation. This is the name of that operating system that's powering your quiet intelligence.
And here's the thing about active observation. It's not passive at all. It is a deliberate, focused skill. You know, it's like this. Anyone can glance at a painting, right? But an active observer, they're the ones studying the brushstrokes, the way the light hits, the hidden story in the details. It's a whole different level of engagement.
I love this idea. The silence isn't emptiness. No way. It's actually a workshop. It's where your thoughts are being carefully crafted, weighed, and polished before you decide they're ready to be shared.
What a reframe, huh? Seriously, instead of feeling kind of self-conscious about being quiet, what if you just embrace this new role? You're a behavioral detective. You're not just standing on the sidelines, you're in the field, gathering clues, figuring out motives, and piecing together the real story that's unfolding all around you.
So does that sound like you? Does this idea of being a behavioral detective kind of click? Well, let's look at 6 really clear signs that you might just be a natural-born active observer.
All right, so here they are, the 6 hallmarks of an active observer. And remember, these aren't signs that you're disinterested. They're actually proof of a mind that is deeply, deeply engaged with the world, just maybe in a quieter way. Let's break them down.
First up, you see the little things. You know what I'm talking about. It's that quick glance between two people, the tiny hesitation before someone answers a question, a subtle shift in their tone of voice. You're constantly picking up on all this data that just flies right over most people's heads.
And because you notice all those little details, you get really good at this next one, reading between the lines. You don't just hear the words people are saying. You hear the emotions, the intentions, the stuff they're really trying to communicate. You're basically an expert in understanding what's not being said out loud.
Have you ever been in a conversation and someone asks you a question and you just pause? People might think you're unsure, but that's not it at all. That pause isn't uncertainty. It's quality control. You're running all the data through your internal processor, looking at it from different angles and building a thoughtful response.
This one's huge. You're not just a good listener, you're a great one. And that's because you're not just sitting there waiting for your turn to talk. You're actively absorbing information, connecting it to things you've talked about before, and building this really rich, detailed map of the people you're with. And because you're collecting all this high-quality data, you start to see the bigger picture. You begin to spot patterns. You can almost predict how someone's going to react in a certain situation because you've seen it before. It gives you this incredible, almost strategic insight into social dynamics.
And finally, it really just comes down to where you get your energy from. For a lot of people, the spotlight is energizing. But for you, the real thrill is in the quiet satisfaction of understanding. Watching the world, figuring it out, that's how you recharge your batteries, not drain them.
Okay, so we've laid out all the signs. We know what it looks like. Now for the best part. Let's talk about why this isn't just a quirky personality trait. It's a genuine, bona fide superpower.
Let's just be absolutely crystal clear here. Everything we've been talking about, noticing tiny details, reading subtext, listening deeply, recognizing patterns, that's not social awkwardness. That is the literal definition of high emotional intelligence.
And having that high emotional intelligence gives you what we're calling the observer's edge.
It translates into real-world advantages, like forming much deeper connections with people, making smarter decisions, having a natural sense of empathy, and gaining strategic insights that pretty much everyone else is going to miss.
So look, in a world that is just full of noise, a world that seems to reward the loudest person in the room, just remember this: your silence isn't an absence of thought. It's actually a powerful tool that you use to cut through all that noise and find what's real. It's a tool for clarity.
It is time to officially ditch that shy label for good and just fully embrace your inner observer. The world out there is absolutely packed with hidden details and amazing untold stories. So the only question left to ask is, what will your superpower help you notice next?